Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to talk about external objects today and how to unleash their full power. My name is Ross Belmont. With me, as always, is my pal Ruben. He's going to show you some really exciting stuff later on. I'm going to fly through the intro piece here quickly to ground people, just in case you've not seen external objects or Salesforce Connect. But we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to get to the exciting stuff. So, first of all, we might make some forward-looking statements today. I think maybe
this is
one
the
or
exciting
two.
part, by the way.
Exactly. So this is a very safe harbor. So please make sure to make your purchasing decisions on what's GA today. You can ask me about that if you're not clear on what's beta, GA, etc. Don't forget to scan this to get some coffee on us and enjoy the survey and partake in that. I'd like to start off by saying thank you, because a platform without developers and apps on it is not much of a thing. So thanks for your efforts in actually making what we have interesting and bringing it to life. Like I said, my name's Ross. With me is my pal Ruben, and we're going to jump into it. So we're going to do a quick recap on what Salesforce Connect is. We'll jump actually into a demo to show and not just tell. Touch on the available adapters real quickly, and then we'll get into the exciting stuff around AI and prompts, where we go from here. We'll be able to take questions probably after we're done, because this is only 20 minutes. I'll step to the side to make room for the next speaker. I can hang out a bit if you have any sorts of questions. Okay, so the main problem that we solve with this product space is that legacy integration is costly and difficult in terms of ETL, right? You typically have key customer data in some sort of other system that's not just inside the four walls of Salesforce. And so your sales and service people are either stuck flipping tabs, or they just have an incomplete view of that information, right? So Salesforce Connect has been designed to solve this problem. It's a robust product that's been around for more than a decade. You may have seen it, you may have heard of it. If not, I'll give you a quick intro here. But we bring that data into Salesforce as if it's a custom object almost, but without storing it. So we don't copy it, sync it, log it, cache it, anything like that. That makes your security teams very happy generally. Virtual access to the data based on real-time callouts, and I'll show how that works in a second. All right, so let's take a look at it right now. Let's get to it. So I will take a look at some information here, and let's say we have a case. Customer called in, they're having trouble with their system. We worked through the support process, and what we decided to do was file this as a bug, and it'll make its way over to engineering for them to work it, right? So we escalated this to create a software defect, which is another record, right? But this record is what we call an external object record. You can see there with the extension on the end of the object name that it's not a custom object, it's an external object, right? So this information looks like it's in Salesforce, but it's actually stored somewhere else. In this case, it happens to be Snowflake, which I'm logged into. I'm going to run the query here again, and we see I'm just picking out this one record. There's the issue. It's at a medium priority, due at the end of the month, right? So we'll take a look at it over here again, and I'll make an edit, because this is where the fun comes in. It treats the data as if it's in Salesforce, including DML operations like this one. So let's go ahead and escalate this one and fix it sooner to make this customer happier. We'll hit save, right? So we changed the priority and the fix by date. That created an API call to Snowflake's API. Let's go ahead and refresh and take a look. And so now it's a high priority with a sooner due date, okay? So that gives you the basic gist of what's going on, right? So we have all kinds of different data sources that we support. We will talk about that here actually in 1 second, which takes us to our list of adapters. So we work with a bunch of different systems out of the box, right? So OData is a standard that we started with because it works with common ERP systems. GraphQL is a little bit of a newer idea of that same iteration. We've got SQL, which you just saw with Snowflake and Athena. We made a lot of investments with our pals at AWS, who have a giant booth right behind you in case you didn't notice it, and our friends right there in the audience as well. So we got Dynamo, Athena, RDS, by way of GraphQL. If those don't work for you, you can write custom Apex code to access any REST API, okay, and pull the data in that way. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We also do have a cross-org adapter that goes from org to org. However, that's an idea that's, you probably want to be looking at Data Cloud 1 for those types of use cases nowadays, okay? So I mentioned a second ago the idea of Apex, and because this is a developer conference, right, I want to at least touch on that a little more deeply. You can take a look at a code sample that we put together that explores the full range of options of how you can treat data from other systems as if it was an object in Salesforce. What we're going to see there in this example is coded against GitHub issues, and it kind of tells the same story that I just showed with defects in Snowflake, but because every developer under the sun knows what GitHub is, we decided to use GitHub. The code's all online. It's a free example, right? You can use it against your GitHub account, and you can get a developer edition org to run it in, because the license for Salesforce Connect is in dev and trailhead orgs. Go ahead and use it for free right now. Actually, not right now, listen to the rest of this, but after that, immediately open your laptop and start doing that. Now, what we're going to talk about here with my pal Ruben is how these objects are now available in Prompt Builder.
Ross, thank you so much. I'm really excited to have this conversation. As product managers, the coolest part of our job is working with other awesome people, and just as cool is working with our awesome community that enables so much of the work that we do. So I just want to start by saying a profound thank you for everything that y'all are doing. And again, any type of feedback that you want to give us, we'll always appreciate. I'll be here for a little bit afterwards to field any questions. I want to start by establishing a little bit more about the why behind our AI. What is the business use case? And more importantly for all of you, what does it do to enable and accelerate the value that you're already adding to your organizations on an everyday basis? And I think this breakdown has a really, really nice synthesis of what that looks like at a high level, but also what that maps to for technical people like yourselves. At the beginning of it is all of your information, and I don't need to tell an audience full of developers that as much as I wish as it were otherwise, all that data probably is not in Salesforce. It's federated across multiple stacks all over the place. Maybe it's in a mainframe. Maybe it's in a Snowflake or a Workday. And there's an equally good chance that some of it might even be in even more antiquated forms of information, like a PDF, for example. I bring that up because those are all forms of data that we have the capability here at Salesforce to synthesize and streamline, and then read in to the second part of what I like to call the generative AI enterprise stack, which is the model. And this is surprisingly non-trivial to maybe just about everybody except those in this room. I've lost count of the number of times I've heard people say, well, why can't you just hook up an out-of-the-box large language model or a ChatGPT or pick your big name up for this use case? And as I'm sure everybody here can elucidate, it's because a lot of those use cases don't allow for off-the-shelf commercial models. Banks or our partners in regulated industries, for example, might have really strict requirements to only utilize models that are built in-house or that match extremely high-level compliance requirements, like SOC 2. In order to ensure that we're meeting those requirements, the ability to plug and play with different models, or even configure one at a click through something like Model Builder, is incredibly important. So that's the next part of our enterprise stack. And then the final part is maybe the most important for all of us, because it has to do with making sure we add value to the people who are not in this room, the business user. All of us are constantly trying to figure out how to articulate our value and map our efforts to assist with people who don't have our level of technical understanding. Because whether that's processing workflows, whether that's creating a sales email, a lot of the end users of our work just don't have the insights we do. So making sure that all of the data and all of the outputs from the models that use that data is easy to use and accurate and made very citizen-friendly is the most important part of this experience. Because that's what allows people who aren't like us to use all of our incredible insights. Now, why am I telling all of you about this? Well, it's because prompts lie at the center of that generative experience. A prompt is an instruction to a large language model. And the reason why Prompt Builder is so instrumental in the experience is for a few reasons. The first is that it allows you to engage with different forms of data, no matter where they are. And Ross and I are going to tell you in a second about what that looks like for external objects. Second is that those prompts can go to a model of your organization's choosing. We know the switching costs and friction for engaging different models and different model providers is anything but trivial. So Prompt Builder enables you to switch between models and provide that information to the one of your choosing, be it in-house or off the shelf, at the drop of a hat. And finally, our focus has been on making sure that the user experience for Prompt Builder isn't just easy for people who are in the weeds every day like yourselves, but also embeddable, so that people who haven't even heard the word Prompt Builder, like someone who's using a generated email by AI for their sales outreach, is able to easily and effectively create a personalized template and output without needing to get super into the nitty-gritty of how it works and why. I want to go a little bit deeper into some of the examples of what this looks like. So just by a show of hands, raise your hand if you've used Flow before. It's a beautiful thing. I actually had the fortune of being on Flow for a little bit. Raise your hand if you used Apex. All right, there we go. So Flow and Apex are just a few of the examples of data that you can use to inform the actions that your prompt takes. We here at Salesforce call that grounding your prompt. Sometimes if you get into really gnarly engineering discussions, we'll call it hydrating a prompt, mostly because it sounds pretty cool. But the idea is that we should be able to use the whole suite of information that we have available, be it CRM records or data that is in Flow or in Apex, and use that to either invoke a prompt or call that information within a prompt. Whether it's customer.firstname or a multi-layered Flow orchestration whose output I need as part of my prompt, those are all things that you can use in order to make sure that the output of your prompt, for example, in a marketing email to a prospect, is as catered and impactful and accurate as possible. But I want to take a step back here. We're having a conversation about external objects. And when we first released Prompt Builder, we were really excited. We heard the excitement from all of you. But quite transparently, we also heard some of the friction. And it's not about what's on this roadmap or this piece of work. It's about what's not. And that was external objects. We heard loud and clear, and it was hard for you and it was hard for us too to understand that those external objects, things like data in Snowflake, things like leveraging our zero-copy ecosystem through Data Cloud, were not easily accessible via Prompt Builder until now. Now you're able to leverage all of that information that might not be inside your CRM or inside Data Cloud explicitly and still ground your prompts with it. A great example being if I have a Snowflake database, I can now use a retriever or a semantic search index to search by the meaning of my query on that data without ever ingesting it somewhere else. And the same goes for emails that might be backed up in Snowflake or data that's in S3 or RDS. That is the power of external objects in Prompt Builder, and I'm a huge believer in show, don't tell. So I want to take this opportunity, and I'll pass it to Ross in a second to talk a little bit more about what this looks like. But I want to talk a little bit about how this is one of the examples where we have an external object being surfaced in Prompt Builder, in this case, via an Apex class. Before, this wasn't a capability that we had. We heard from the developer community that this was absolutely something that was required because so much of the data that you have doesn't necessarily live in your CRM. And that should not be an absolute cost when it comes to leveraging the power of prompts to get the outputs that you and your business users need. Ross, I think it'd be a great time to talk a little bit more about what this looks like.
For sure. So since this is a little small to see, right, but this is a real screenshot, and what we're showing here is an example of how we've used Apex to pull in this data just to give the AI a little bit more to work with, right? When you have, in this case, an e-commerce order, we are mimicking what you've seen as the record snapshot feature, right, that shows up with other native objects, like accounts, et cetera. That pulls from the related lists on those records. You can echo the same basic thing in Apex to pull, let's say, for example, not just the order header, but like all the line items as well on a given e-commerce order, and then that feeds the LLM in a more realistic way to, in this case, suggest recipes for food that was purchased at a gourmet food shop, right? So that's what this is showing here. Although what we're talking about in the future in a second is where this heads. Now, you can see this code sample if you'd like. It's a simple example that queries information and exposes it via an action. And I can talk about that and show the code samples as well more offline if you happen to miss this. But I just wanted to highlight that those are the two ways to go, right? So where this is headed next is we're excited to be able to announce that native support in Prompt Builder is also on the way in the next major release. So working with Ruben and team, we got that over the line. So when you can pick a record on that lower right panel that's used in the preview, that's an example of how you would just do that with an external object as well, right? So it'll look just like a contact or a lead or any custom object, and then you can see it in your preview, use it in the grounded prompt, okay? So outside of just AI and prompts, we want to just put this out there that this is where we're thinking about heading with the external object Salesforce capability. Open up an usage-based pricing option. Some folks have pricing issues that maybe that could help overcome. Thinking about BigQuery and Databricks. Since you're developers, I'll call out overriding standard behaviors with Apex. You can code your own entire adapter in Apex if you like, but you may just want to sort of intercept one part of it. That would help solve some problems that we've seen folks have. So we're interested in that as well. If you've got strong opinions or feedback on it, when I step to the side, I'd love to talk to you about where you might be interested in taking this functionality with external objects that maybe isn't obvious today. I could tell you if you can do it, or if not, where it might belong in the roadmap. So that's why I wanted to spend a little bit of time here.
And
right? So,
one thing, by the way, anybody here a member of a partner organization from Salesforce? Anybody here know any partners? Raise your hand.
Any partner?
All right, there we go. So we got a few. I'm sure everybody here has interacted with a partner here or two. I bring that up because for all of you partners or partner adjacent people, just keep in mind we also recently released packaging for Prompt Builder that includes this capability. So a big opportunity to engage further with our amazing partner ecosystem, something that hopefully makes life easy for all of you too.
Yeah. So we're excited about where this is headed, but we're also interested to open our ears and listen. It's part of why I'm here today. So I'd love to have your thoughts on where you might need to go with your data integrations and how you want that information to surface in Salesforce. So that is basically it, right? We're rushing on time here because this is only a short session. Love to talk more. Thank you. And thanks again for your efforts. Make sure to fill out the survey. I will, if you haven't gotten a chance to grab either of the code samples yet, I can leave this up for a second because we have 2 minutes left on the clock here. Either one. So we have both the complete example of building your own adapter with Apex code, again, against a GitHub example, showing advanced features that I touched on, like having the date pickers and pick list values and things like that fully render in Salesforce, and also the sort of snapshotting of an external data by way of a convenience Apex method, if that's what you need to do to get better results from the LLM. All right, so just wanted to touch on both of those. So I'll leave this up here for a second. We have a couple of minutes, but thanks for showing up.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.